recording, and we're going now. So welcome everyone. We're going to take a look at all the various high school assessments that are out there. Please do not hesitate to ask questions. As I said, Sarah will be monitoring the chat. Ben from OMGE is here. So if you've got specific questions or concerns that I have no clue or Sarah has no clue, Ben has all the clues. So he will be able to answer that. So without any further ado, we'll get started. All right. So again, we've made it to February, folks, and that's a good thing. So this is found on the Office of Assessment Administration website and the February meetings. That the link is in the invite, so you will be able to download the PowerPoint if you'd like. So welcome everyone, and again, why we're here is because we do work better together, and the information that we get from not only from myself and Sarah and Ben, but each other is really helpful and has been proven to be that in the past. Our agenda today is we're going to take a look at the current state of the testing world. We'll give you updates on things such as the civics test and advanced placement, Access, ACT, Aspire, Wisconsin Forward, and if you don't have enough, we'll hang out for more questions. So there's a lot coming in the next few months if things work out for the better. So let's get started. So kind of a current thing to ground everybody in, to make sure that we understand what's going forward, is a couple things. First of all, in Wisconsin, DPI has applied for an access waiver to the federal government. That period for public comment closed on the 29th of January. I'm assuming that they sent it out either Monday or Tuesday of this week, and it takes 90 days, up to 90 days for the feds to give an answer, which would put us at, let's see, February, March, April. It would put us about May 1st before we would know an answer. So we are planning, and this is the case of all the assessments, we are planning as if we're going forward with the assessments this spring, even though we know in the back of our minds that we may not be in session, we may not be giving this. But if suddenly we're given the green light and somebody says, we're going to start back to school in 3 weeks, there's a lot of things to do. And so I don't want testing to be suddenly, rising to the level of priorities for you. So again, what we're doing is we're trying to continue the pace and the process that we've had in the past, so that when and if this does come to fruition, we will be ready for it. So access may have a waiver, but we're not counting on it. There is a COVID relief bill in the state legislature that if the governor's version of the bill that he submitted to the legislature actually passes, or a portion of it, there is an entire page on student assessment and school report cards, in which case they would all be canceled for the year. Given how well the state legislature is working with the governor, I would say I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. Now, here is something that's really important, because it colors everything that we're going to be talking about. DPI's stance on testing is, of course I misspelled it, schools will test students face to face. They have said that if you are in any version, if you're hybrid, if you're full-time face-to-face, if you're AB, morning, afternoon, or virtual, you need to test face-to-face. When I push on them and say, yes, but we're virtual, how can we possibly do that? We're not bringing students into test. They said, bring students into test, or bring them into a community center so that they can test there. That's completely, in my book, ridiculous. First thing I did is I went to our legal services staff and said, heads up, this is going to be a fight. So we're hoping, because Milwaukee Public Schools is in the same situation that we are, they're virtual. Just please understand that that's something that we're working on, and that it will be coming. Information will be coming forward as we get it, but this is what we have to deal with. So, given that background, here are some updates that I would like to share. First of all, civics test. We're going to get this back up and running for summer school, in time for the summer school. Please note that there will be a change, and I've talked to the social studies coordinator in the district, knows this, Marty Moe, and he's been in communication with your department chairs. So just be aware, this is just for your information, the change in the number of questions from 100 to 128. So nothing like making it longer. So we're working on that, and I'll get you more information when that happens. Also, coming up, the spring of every year, beginning of May, advanced placement testing. College Board has said from the very beginning this year that we will be having full-length tests this year, unlike last year in which there was only a single 1 or 2 questions. We do not know what this is going to look like. We do not know the details. They've kind of hinted at the possibility that students could do this virtually, that the test window could move from the beginning to the end of May, etc. We won't know what the options are until the middle of this month. Once the College Board releases that information, we will be sharing that with the AP coordinators and making sure that everybody who wants to know this gets that information. We'll be posting it on our website, and I'm 100% certain that when they release details in February, there will be more questions than answers. So please keep that in mind. All right, let's move on to access. So again, keeping in mind that DPI has said we will test face-to-face, and that's the only option that we have. We're moving forward with plans. So once again, those of you who have done this before will recognize the WIDA website, wida.wisc.edu. This is be the place to go for professional development and any updates regarding how things are moving forward. The timeline. We know that the window typically is December 1st or 2nd, somewhere in there, to the end of January. So in essence, on a typical year, we would be finishing up right now. We'd be done. And we all know that this is not typical. So the window has moved to February 22nd and may close on April 30th. DPI has told me that they're looking at extending the window as far as the end of May, and maybe even a little bit further. So we don't know what this window is going to look like, but it overlaps with all other spring testing. So everyone is going to be stressed about doing any of these assessments. So we understand that. As far as preparation for the assessment, normally we have like 3 distinct timelines, 3 distinct sections. We still have that. Here's what is going on. Sarah has used the information that is in OASIS to update what the accommodations are in there for students who are English learners and also have IEPs. In bold, the bold section right now shows that things that should be happening: professional development, any changes to IEPs should be emailed to Sarah so that she can get that into the system. And then in general, just preparation for the assessment. Now, professional development. We've had conversations about this in the past. There are a lot of people who are new to the district who have never given access online. And so they would need to go through the full professional development. This is something that we need to plan on. And if you can do it at your own leisure, at your own time pace, rather than under a time crunch, that's better. So just know that that's there. If someone needs access to the professional development modules, please have them email Sarah Wallner or myself. We'll talk about scheduling and how that is in theory supposed to work once we figure out if and when we are going back. But if we could be ready and just be thinking about those kinds of things, that would be great.
Tim, can I add in about the training?
Please.
So the Wednesday, February 10th, we have some time that we've tried to keep aside for teachers to go ahead and do that training. Obviously, there's all the caveats that go with that and things happening in the building. And but that's one time we've tried to tell teachers, this is a great time for you to go ahead and do the training that you need so that it's just done, it's out of the way. And I believe that's in the principal's bulletin this week. If it wasn't last week, it's gone out in one of them. I'm not sure which. And I think it also requests that teachers get that done by February 22nd.
Is that a job-alike day, Ben? Do you know if that's job-alike Wednesday?
I believe it is.
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Yes, it is, Ben.
Good.
So yeah, we're hoping that teachers can get that done by the 22nd, and we're wanting them to, take advantage of the time that they could have during that job-alike time.
Ben,
Great.
this is for all teachers, right? For all ESL teachers who are testing?
Yes, and
Yeah.
so, I mean, we do this every year where, we try to figure out who's going to be testing. It's way easier just to have, it's likely that all of the ESL teachers and BRTs in a building will be involved in this. So each year we want them to go back and revisit everything and take the quizzes and be ready.
Okay.
Especially this year, if we end up doing it, we will probably need all hands on deck. So it would be good to have everybody trained and ready so they don't have to just pick that up at last minute and have to train before they do things.
Great, thank you. And so again, that would be really, so by the 10th, if everybody is going to be training, if there's anyone who does not have access to the WIDA professional development site, has not got a login, please have them email either Sarah, myself, or Ben, and we'll make sure that that happens in time for that Wednesday professional development. Thanks, Ben. One of the things that WIDA has done and DPI has also done is they've created documentation around safe testing protocols. What does it look like in a pandemic when you come back face to face and you are asked to do some testing? So those are being, we're taking both of those documents, combining them into one kind of larger document that will be out on our OAA website. So that everybody is aware of what this might look like if we are going to be back in place and testing. One of the big concerns, especially with the access, is the use of headsets. So obviously there's a computer portion of this, but there's also portions where students are speaking into the computer and recording their voice. So you have to have something that they can listen to and something that they will record their voice. I'm looking into, with tech services help, some inexpensive earbuds with the microphone. So if we could get 5,000 of those, then we could give them out to students so that they are able to have these. They can use their own, but they can also, we also have this in backup. They would not be cleaned. They would simply become the student's property, and they can throw them away. They can keep them, whatever. So I'm working on that, and we'll have more information hopefully in the next couple of weeks as to what that actually will look like. Again, those won't be available until we know when we are going to be in person and actually testing. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen here for a moment and just see if there are any questions regarding access. I'm going to take a breath right now and see if you have any questions so far.
So Ben, I assume that on Wednesday next week, we're going to talk about tickets and all of that for testing, right?
I think Sarah has more information on that, but yeah, I think she has all the information she needs for the students. And Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong. We're just not going to print them yet because we don't want to just waste a bunch if they're not going to be needed. So I'll let you go.
Yeah. So the students are in the system and are ready to go. The accommodations will be done soon, and those things need to happen before tickets are printed. However, like Ben said, we got into a situation last year where we printed all of the forward tickets, thousands of tickets, and then literally shut down the next day. So I'd like to save paper until we know for sure what's happening. That being said, you can count on me to still print them. As soon as we know more and we're moving forward, if we're in the scenario in which we need tickets fast, that will be my biggest priority. So those things will still come from me, and you will not be responsible for printing them on your own. We're just going to hold tight on that, and also to physical material. When you're talking about like students who are taking alternate at our high schools and need paper tests, we will be receiving them from DPI in the next 2 weeks, but I'm going to hold them at Doyle until we know for sure, so that you don't have to look out for them at your buildings, that type of thing, until we know for sure that you're going to need them and that somebody's there to receive them. So those things are in the works, but they are on pause until we know a little more.
Okay. So we just wait and
yes, and we will communicate with you as soon as we know more, and also those details, like when to expect things to arrive, etc.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, speaking of being in the buildings, I'm confused. And I apologize because, as you know, I'm standing in for our normal assessment coordinator who's on leave. So I'm saw the window that you had on the little slide that was previous, but then you also talked about us applying for the waiver, which may take until May 1st for us to get an answer. So I guess I'm confused about what are we waiting on to hear about whether we're going to be in the buildings actually doing this and needing to pull that together. I'm confused about the timeline and the next steps. Can someone clarify?
Sure. Okay. So in the background is this application for a waiver. I'm not going to hold my breath to say that's going to happen. So that's just kind of context. Yes, exactly, Ben. Welcome to this world. So what we're doing is we're moving ahead with preparations for access testing as if we were going to be in the buildings on February 22nd, which we know we're not. We will have everything ready so that when we get the word and we know that we're going to be ramping up and moving into this in a kind of a phased approach, we will have everything ready. So when it says time for the high schools to start, we will have material, information, tickets, all of that stuff ready to roll. It could be as late as they could extend the window until the first week in June. We don't know. So we're again.
Okay. Just one last clarifying question, Tim. We're not expected to give the access testing at sites unless we as a school are back in the building, correct?
That is what leadership has confirmed with me. I've been saying this all along, and they have been pretty adamant about the fact that we are not going to come back, bring students into the buildings that are otherwise closed to staff and students and test them. So
got it. Now it all makes sense. I was thinking about having to do this in isolation while the buildings are still closed. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
So Tim, having said that, and that's what we've always thought and what I've been kind of operating under. But if we came back on April 5th, which is I think the absolute completely earliest that high schools could, we're looking at throwing at forward, WKCE for 9th and 10th graders, access for ELLs, possibly civics, AP exams. We won't be teaching kids. So is there anything, again, that we can lobby with I mean, especially if we're in some kind of hybrid model where kids are in the building 2 days a week. Sophomores won't do anything but test when they come back. Kids in AP classes, that'll probably change the schedule, but I might have even missed something, but that's not rational.
No, it is not. However, we are dealing with a system right now that unless something happens at the state legislature, the DPI is basically saying the law says we have to do this. And so they're pushing on this because they don't want, they can't have any other message. They cannot. It is absolutely ridiculous for us to think that we'll be bringing students in only to test. It's also pretty, I don't know, it takes my breath away to even consider the fact that we would do all these things in that short amount of time. So,
and we'd have a number of students and families that would decide not to send their students back. So the cohort of testing would not be complete.
Right. And, there's questions about whether or not the data is valid anyways, given this year that we've had. So that's not my call. My job is to make sure that if and when things happen that we are back in person and we can do this, it's available. It's ready to roll. So I couldn't agree with you more, but it's not my call. So, and I know that's a wishy-washy answer. I get it, but that's where things are at. So
Hey, Ben, I think you forgot ACT, right?
Yes, he did.
No, I didn't forget ACT because that's done by April 5th. So I don't think there's
no, it's not.
Oh, Jesus. We haven't talked about ACT yet. So yeah, Randy, I forgot ACT. Thanks.
Yeah, we have, I'm sorry, we have, trust me, April 9th, I think is the day, and it's the last shot, but.
Oh, it's, both of you guys are heading in the right directions, April 13th. And let's talk about that right now.
Tim, can I ask a quick clarification
Absolutely.
on for the civics exam? Is the understanding right now that it is not required for our current senior class unless we were able to come back for them to take it?
At this point, it is not required for the senior class, even if we come back. We have a waiver for this year.
Excellent.
And so the civics test I spoke of would start with summer school, and we'll probably roll it out in small phases. And so the expectation is the graduating class of 2022, so this year's juniors, would be the next group we're required to meet that expectation.
Great. Thank you.
So is this it for the access?
It is.
Okay, senor. See you later.
All right. You take care of yourself.
Bye, Mr. Leon.
All right. Bye now. Okay. So ACT. We're going to talk about what the windows are, the process, what the state expects. So let's move on. All right. We know that March 9th is the first ACT date. And then following that are the accommodations window. So we have day-long windows, March 9th, March 23rd, and April 13th. And with each one of those is an accommodation period. I don't believe there's any way possible that we're going to be back in time to do a March 9th test in any way, shape, or form. So I am going to get in touch with the chiefs and just tell them that we don't want boxes of tests lining up at our doors waiting for somebody to check them in and then to send them back. So we're going to see if we can put a pause and a hold on that. If not, if it's too late already, then we will have to just refuse the shipments or send them back as they are. So here are some of the things that I've been thinking about. We have on the left-hand side is the paper administration. As Ben said, if everything was really great, we'll probably be back on April 5. The last opportunity to give the ACT this year is on April 13th. And again, it must be given in person. The standard administration time must be given all at once. So that's where most of our students take that particular test, and they will be given that test at one time. We have already applied for all the accommodations. We're working through, I know buildings are working through right now. Students who are new to the district have new IEPs, and those that they are trying to work on getting the accommodations finalized. So I did hear that ACT is a little bit behind on that, so hopefully they will have caught up in the next couple days. Now, here I want you to understand that this is, in my opinion, not an option, but I cannot, with being responsible to you in the district, change things. I am talking with tech services to ensure that we are ready as a district to give an online version. This is not a virtual version. This is an online version. So you still would find students have to be in place face-to-face. However, one of the big differences is that standard administration time can take place over many days, and those days are listed. The accommodations would roll online. We use the software already. We use it for Aspire testing. It's called TestNav, and students can start and stop testing. You could do 3 sessions on one day to the next, 1 session each day, etc. I am not advocating for this in any way, shape, or form. We could do online testing on the 13th and have that, and you don't have to deal with paper. However, I'm thinking to make sure that it's the least complex situation for everyone. We plan on doing paper testing on the 13th of April. The reason why I'm really doing this is what happens if we come back on the 12th of April? I don't want to be the district that says, you've been out for over a year. Welcome back. I'm your teacher you've been working with virtually all year. Tomorrow we're going to test. So what the online option does, if we were to come back on April 12th, it gives us the option to say, we're going to have April 21st as our juniors only ACT test day, and we're going to give it online. So it's keeping some options open that, based on when we come back, my intention is that we would be giving the paper test on April 13th. But that, again, the online, getting ready for the online doesn't mean we have to do it that way. It just means we have some options. And I know that's a huge change from where I'm at or where I've been at, and I am going to stop right there because I know that there's going to be some questions. So yeah, I mean, if we went back on the 12th, you could even go so far as to say the 14th would be available. So, I mean, kids could gear up for this, but I want to just make sure that we have that. If we only go paper and are dedicated to that, if we come back on the 12th, the 13th is the only test date. So trying to build in some flexibility, even though we are not planning on doing it that way. Any questions?
Tim, if
Yeah.
we came back and had to do the paper, if we came back and had to do the paper testing on the 12th or some ridiculous late date like that, what happens to like makeups? We always need makeup time.
Right. So if the
Didn't have them last year because they got canceled.
So if the students are standard test time, no accommodations, that's it. That's our one date, period. Last year, the state gave us vouchers for those who didn't. We had 338 students in the district who did not test on the test day. I had 4 students show interest because I emailed everyone, and I don't know if anyone actually took a makeup test. I've been talking with the chiefs that one of the things we can do as a district is provide a free option for taking the ACT in the fall to those students who missed it in the spring, because they can only take this as juniors once. You only have that one opportunity. So if they miss it, we can say, we're going to purchase options for you to take it in the fall. That's just been a conversation out there. The chiefs are like, that seems like a reasonable thing. The students who have accommodations that say they can test over multiple days would be the only ones who could continue testing after the 13th until they finished up their test.
Okay, thank you.
It's not pretty any way we look at this. So,
So knowing the complexity of getting materials ready, rooms ready, everything ready for a paper version of the test, and knowing that would steal away a Tuesday, we're probably, if we do go back, it's going to be some kind of probably hybrid Monday, Tuesday group, Thursday, Friday group. I might be like shoot myself in the foot here and along with everybody else's feet that is in this Zoom, but I would advocate for setting it up for the 14th or the 21st online so that we don't have to deal with paper. We don't have to set up the same way. We can spread kids out in the building more with proctors in smaller groups. The only thing we'd have to deal with is it's a Wednesday. We will be missing a PD. I don't know if that's a contractual thing with DPI, or not with DPI, with MTI. But I know our teachers would like not to give up a day of instruction. And frankly, no one's going to be happy about giving the ACT a week and a half after we get back anyway. If we do go back, yeah.
Ben, I would question using a Wednesday because that's the day the buildings were supposed to be sanitized.
So we would look at it's regardless of if it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, et cetera, we would still be looking at I'm sorry, I'm trying to do a couple things at the same time and I can't. We would be looking at a junior only day. So that would then free up people to proctor. It would give you space within your buildings to have, 10 to a room or whatever it needs to be, etc. So that's what I was making sure that you knew. So, all right. I am going to go back and we'll keep going with this joyride. So things that should be going on. Well, not much right now, but keep in mind that in the past, one of the things that we've done is we've had the non-test portion of the ACT. Students have to take that ahead of time. They have to fill that out ahead of time, and it's been pencil and paper. This year, it's all online on My ACT. So at some point, when we get closer and we make a decision about when we're going to give that, students need to go in and actually complete the non-test portion of the ACT. So it's all the questions about which classes I've taken, what schools I'm interested in, etc. That can all be done online on My ACT. I'm going to get information to you regarding this very quickly. And they can actually do this up to 2 days after testing. So students can test and then they will be, they can fill out the non-test portion afterwards. This is regardless of whether it's pencil and paper or if it's an online test. So students we're not going to have any time this year to actually, take the 45 minutes to go through and bubble in all the questions, the address, etc. Now, here's what I'm thinking that the schools need to be thinking about. We don't need to take any action now. We know that we need to have proctors trained whenever the date is set. The training is different than something as something like the access test. The access test has online modules with quizzes. You get certified. We know from the past that the training for ACT, for Aspire, for Forward are all essentially, let's do it ourselves. We've got this PowerPoint from DPI, etc. So it doesn't take that long. And so I want you to just keep in mind that when the date is set, when we know that this will actually happen, we do have to include training for proctors. And that might be a larger number of people than it has been in the past. We may have to figure out a way of doing this online ahead of time, etc. And then just something, a reminder that regardless of whether it's pencil and paper or an online version of the test, those students with accommodations have to be in the same room as others with a similar accommodation. So for instance, if a student has something called timing code 8, they cannot be with the students who have no accommodations. They cannot be with students who have timing code 6. They can only be with other students who are timing code 8. We've run into this many times in the past and probably will continue to, but that's just as you think about, okay, if we're going to do the ACT and we're going to have students here, I'm going to have 10 to a room, we're going to spread them out, and you're going to have to set up accommodations for this. Please keep that in mind as far as students with similar accommodations getting the same location, physical location. All right. Very similar in some ways, but not completely, is the ACT Aspire. Currently, the window for Aspire is April 5th through the 14th of May. That could get extended, we're not sure. Again, things that schools could be doing, really not a lot right now, but just we want to make sure that any accommodations that are regarding the Aspire for 9th and 10th graders are in OASIS, that everything is updated so that when that data is pulled and it's put into TestNav, the Pearson Access Next, that it's all set, ready to roll, and the accommodations are there. I'm working with tech services to make sure that TestNav is up to date, and you will get a list of, once that is set up, you get a list of students and their accommodations. So, Aspire, here are the times. We have not found out anything about Aspire other than it's scheduled to go as normally. Whereas Forward actually has shorter times for the test this year, the Aspire does not. So these are the times. Again, you can see it's a huge time commitment. And we in the past have talked about, but never actually done. We were going to do this last year, a 9th and 10th grade day only. And I think that we should pursue that option again this year, if again, the test is going to be on. Again, to have students spread out in a smaller groups and to have the proctors available, we need to make sure that that is going to be the case. So we're looking at what the options are, and I'm communicating with the chiefs about this concept. Finally, there is a new accessibilities and support guide. I don't believe there are many changes. This will be on the website and available for everyone coming up in the next 24 hours. So last but not least is the Forward exam. You know that it is designed for our 10th graders and only in social studies. So this is not something that is going to take a lot of time. They have removed field test questions from every session. So normally they have like 2 or 3 questions, maybe 4 that are in, they're field testing them. They are not counted as scores, but that's questions that the students will take. So we're guessing that this shortens up the social studies test by anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. Not a huge length of time, but in the past, This has been approximately a 45-minute test in 2 sessions that will continue to be in 2 sessions. And so as we move ahead, this is what we know. Again, we'll have, when it's time, we'll have Proctor Professional Development available. Notice that there is a high school only portion of that because you are only responsible for giving social studies. So the long professional development that DPI provides is not what we're going to be doing. So it will be a shortened version of that professional development. Accommodations and supports, again, that information is, nothing has really changed. We have universal tools, designated supports that are recommended based on teachers and what is actually used in the classroom, and then students with accommodations and IEPs. Embedded means it's in the software. Non-embedded means it might be small group setting, something like that. Okay. This information is going to be pulled from OASIS, and it will be pulled by the end of February. And so then we have some time to get that into the software as we go forward. Go ahead. I'm seeing a couple questions. So the window sounds very similar to Aspire. It's March 22nd through the April 30th. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. I misstated something. So please, March 22nd. So it's right before spring break and goes through the end of April currently. Okay, many of you got the email from Sarah saying that to look at your EL's accommodations or a level of supports. And so that is something that we need to get moving sooner. The timeline is between now and February 19th, because again, we have only a certain window that we can use to load these supports. Accommodations are different than supports, but as far as loading them, and we want to make sure we get some time in order to do that. If everything moves ahead as planned, this is a little piece on text-to-speech, since we're not doing English language arts, that's there. If everything moves ahead, we will have tickets available after March 8th. We'll print one color because it's only social studies, and unfortunately they're alphabetical by grade. I'm going to just finish this up and then we'll go back to see if there's any questions. Opt-outs, as always, if you get a copy, it needs to be written. Send me the email, forward the email. If it's a pencil and paper, it's handwritten note, scan it, send that to us. I need to report this to the board. And at the end of the day, we also need to let DPI know why students did not test. So here's our contact information, and I'm going to bring us back. Okay. Let me just take the question that was in the chat. If it was...
Yes, Sarah already answered it. Thank you.
Perfect,
She's awesome.
perfect. I know she is. So I am going to stop recording, and then we'll just open it up for any other questions that you might have. So